9:20. I am on time. Normally that never happens, Gene. I'm just going to tell you that now. It's normally 9:25 or 9:15. It's never really the time I put down initially, and it's my show. I don't know what that says about me or my character, but all I know is that I'm excited for this conversation. And Gene, this is what brings up a great point. I believe Lee Barham came down and dropped off a copy of your book today, and he was also the one that encouraged the conversation a little bit, and I'm really glad to have you on the show today. This is a great one to have.
I'm happy to be here. Thank you. And if it hadn't been for Lee, we never would have met.
Well, and let's talk a little bit about your career before we talk about the book and just kind of build up to this moment.
Well, I'm an Alton native, but I moved to Chicago because I wanted to explore music. And very quickly, I got into the touring company of Jesus Christ Superstar, one of the touring companies.
Wow.
We played Canada and the Northwest United States, and I was Judas. And I ruined my voice after 2 years of wailing in soprano keys.
Oh, I bet.
And then I went to a doctor and I had to stay quiet for over a year to heal my vocal cords.
How do you do that before we go any further? Because that's one of those tasks to me that seems like it's a lot easier said than done, because I'm not a quiet guy to begin with.
I wasn't either then, but so I wanted to stay in showbiz.
Yeah.
I'd been in a lot of plays as a kid. When Lewis and Clark College was Monticello College, I'm the first male student at Monticello College.
Are you really?
Yep.
Wow, that's really cool.
I lived on the campus with 6 other boys, and all we were there for was to be in plays.
Really?
Yeah. So in 1968 or 9, I was in 8 straight plays. Most of them I played the lead parts.
That's incredible.
The Boyfriend, The Fantastics, and so on and so on. But it was a great education, as well as living on a campus with 300 girls. That was a great education.
Great ratio.
But then, so I had that experience, and I decided I wanted to write a play.
Yeah.
Because I was going to face at least a year of being quiet. I did write the play. I took it to a bar one night to celebrate my first writing. And a man was sitting next to me. He looked like Telly Savalas. He was wearing a torn T-shirt. He had tattoos all over his arms. And I slammed down the manuscript on the bar. There were 4 men in there because it was like 1:30 in the morning.
Yeah.
And I said, drinks on the house. Easy to do when there's only four men.
I would do that all the time, too.
And he turned to me and said, so you're a playwright? And I said, I am. And he said, well, do you know who I am? And I thought, like a stevedore off of some tramp ship in Chicago. I'm Dr. Mel Slott. I'm the director of theater at one of the local colleges. And I'm like, what? I was set up. A friend had told him I was coming.
That's interesting.
So he said, give me your manuscript and I come to my house tomorrow and I'll tell you whether you're a playwright, Mr. Playwright, like that. I went to his house. He had my only manuscript. This is way before computers.
Oh, man. That's nerve-wracking.
Yeah. And when I went into his house, he had laid the script on the floor of his white carpet. He had slashed everything with red pencil, and I started crying. And he said, shut up and sit down and read what's left. And there was something left. And after an hour later, he said, what have we learned? And I said that I had written a 3-hour play, which I, of course, didn't know, but it's the same play now. And he said, exactly. Now you're going to send this to, and he named somebody in New York City, and retype and send. So I did. And 3 months later, I got a call from a director named William Hunt. Your play's opening in New York. Come to New York.
Wow.
that quickly. I was
What a turn! What was the play called?
Going Steady and Other Fables of the Heart.
Wow.
It's set here in Alton. And it's in the old bar that was on Central Street that we used to hang out at when I was a kid. But anyway, it happened.
No kidding.
And I came back home to Chicago, and fairly quickly, in 1987, I wrote another play, which was produced at the Body Politic Theater, and I became part of their ensemble for a while.
That's incredible. What can I ask you? What bar? Do you remember the bar?
Irish Eyes.
No kidding.
Lincoln Avenue. Oh, yeah.
And then the bar that you based the play off of, do you remember that on Central Street, the name of that one?
I wish I could, but I can't call it up right now. But it was a place where high school kids would go for prom dates and stuff.
Okay, gotcha. Really cool. Well, it's just fascinating to hear the backstory a little bit, because you had a very successful run up in Chicago doing this. And now, I mean, just the story of that in a nutshell is just incredible. I mean, that's almost like a movie in itself. You throw your play down because you get kind of set up by your buddy to just go in there and you connect, and here you go in such a short turnaround time.
So the other thing about Chicago was all the singers that were doing shows would gather in a bar at 2:00 in the morning after hours.
No kidding.
And I was invited there to just sing harmonies because I had a high voice.
Wow.
And so I sat with, and we were all unknown then. So John Prine, young man named John Prine.
Wow.
Arlo Guthrie, when he was in town, would come there. And I would just sit there in the back. I don't know if they knew who they were, but Steve Goodman, same thing.
Wow. That's incredible.
People like that. And Brownie McGee, Sonny Terry and Brownie McGee, very old blues musicians, had their own nightclub in town. They would come too. It was fantastic.
It's incredible.
Yeah.
Well, and it's just really interesting to hear your backstory a little bit, because it's full of different walks of life and different individuals. And, now just because we, for time's sake, we have to, keep moving forward here because we have a commercial break coming up. And that's where I want to leave the break on as a tease of what we're going to talk about. And that is your book here. What leads you back to Alton, after the career is where it's at?
Money. Lack of money.
Gotcha.
It's very expensive to live there now. It wasn't back.
Oh, I bet. Yeah.
And when I came back, I had no prospects, although I had interviewed for a couple of jobs, managing a building in one of the towns south of here that was going to be rehabbed and become a theater, and I would run it. Mm-hmm. It collapsed before it opened, as so many projects do. So now what am I going to do? And the Telegraph picked me up as a freelance writer. Mm-hmm. One of their reporters did a story on me, and then she said, "Why aren't you working for us?" And I started working for her, and that's where it all really began.
It's incredible. Interviewing
local people and discovering that I knew nothing about Alton, Illinois.
Well, and see, that's what we were talking about on the phone. I did a show with Ray Harmon on the radio for years at night for a couple of years, and got a lot of running the boards and everything. And you get to hear a lot when you're there all day throughout the daytime shows. And I'm like, man, all the people that live in Illinois that are driving across to St. Louis want to hear stories about the area, about the Riverbend, and it's full of history and business culture and entertainment. All these different cultures connect, and I think that there's a lot to talk about. And we drive by, Lyman Trumbull's house, and 90% of us don't know who that is. We drive by all these various spots that are truly historic. They aren't just old. And I think that that's what makes us so much more unique over other towns, is that they might be historic for a couple of things, but you take a walk and you go down through the chapters of the history book. Alton has a lot of those notches in the belt.
They do, and I grew up in Belleville, and then we moved here. My family moved here when I was in the 7th grade. So it was very hard for me and my sister to adjust to.
Oh, I bet.
Being here. But what was so different was Belleville. There was one black kid in my class. Mm-hmm. Alton. There were many black kids, many of whom are very close friends now. But they didn't talk about what happened to them as youngsters because they went to segregated elementary schools.
Right.
But everybody went to Alton High where there was one high school.
Well, and that's what I think surprises so many folks too, is when we talk about, the school district being segregated, is that a lot of folks just don't comprehend that for my generation because it just doesn't make sense. 2 and 2 doesn't equal 4 there, and they didn't see it.
Schools were desegregated in Illinois in 1895.
Yep.
Nobody obeyed it, and no one did anything about it. 1952, a gentleman here who is with his brother and some other men, black, built many of the brick streets of Alton, and they were beloved until he filed a suit to get his kid into a white school.
Wow. And
4 days after he filed, a cross burning occurred right across the street from him at Rock Springs Park. Elijah Conley was his name. Lived next door to the Killian family, who are historic here in Illinois, and Josephine Beckwith, who was the leader of the civil rights struggles of that period of Alton.
It's very fascinating.
And I got to interview Jo 3 times when she was around 100 years old.
Wow.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
And she really blew my mind with the things she told me.
Well, I'm sure. You got a moment to take a quick break with me? Let's pay that bill. We'll come back and we'll talk with Gene more and discuss the book and more of the story there. You stay there and we'll be back in the studio after this one on RiverBender and Roku.
Throughout all life stages, you need someone in your corner, guiding you on your health and wellness journey. At OSF Healthcare, that's your primary care provider. Your OSF primary care provider is there for every stage of life. Find a provider today at osfhealthcare.org/primary.
Not sure if you've noticed, but those advertised prices from the other dealers are just a bunch of blah, blah, blah. At Roberts Motors, the advertised price is the price you pay. And that, my friend, is great news for you. Don't fall for their so-called incentives that will leave you banging your head against the wall. Go with Roberts Motors. Prices you can trust and people you will like. That's the Roberts Motors way. And trust me, it's the way to go.
With over 20 years of experience, Wilson's Tree Service has the expertise to handle all of your tree care needs. Licensed and fully insured, their team of experts are dedicated to providing reliable service. Plus, with a 24-hour emergency service line, Wilson's will always be there for you. Don't risk tackling that timber by yourself. Trust the local professionals at Wilson's Tree Service. Visit treeservicealtonil.org to get started today.
Discover Del Mar Public House, located in Godfrey's historic Clifton Schoolhouse. Enjoy bold flavors like homemade falafel, fish and chips, and rotating pasta favorites. Relax with local beers, half-price wine bottles, and summer poutine nights. The only thing missing is you. Open Wednesday through Sunday. Del Mar Public House, where great food, drinks, and friends come together. DelMarPublicHouse.com.
Do you need to declutter your space? Time to call me, the Queen of Junk. Since 1993, we have grown to be the leader in residential, commercial, and property management junk removal. At Sparks Junk Removal, we are eco-friendly. We recycle, donate, or repurpose items back into our community. Trash is our last resort to the landfill. Plus, with our all-inclusive service, our crews handle everything from labor to lifting and landfill fees. Give us a call or visit our website, sparksjunkremoval.net, to reclaim your space today.
When I got in the car accident at the ER, they gave me a prescription of hydrocodone. And over time, it took more medication to mask the pain. I moved over to drug seeking and found heroin and fentanyl. I went to the Centerstone rehab facility, and it was the best decision I ever made in my life. I have my own car, I have a job, there's nothing holding me back anymore.
When you need a project done right, on budget and on time, trust Gillahan Concrete. Gillahan handles every kind of project, big and small. Commercial, industrial, residential, from room additions and garages to patios, driveways, and more. Gillahan brings quality and experience to every job. Family owned with over 30 years of service to our community. Call today at 618-781-3914 or visit GillahanConcrete.com.
Accidents happen in a heartbeat, but lives change forever. Whether it's a car crash, workplace injury, medical malpractice, or wrongful death, you don't have to face the consequences alone. Keith Short and Associates brings over 33 years of experience and a reputation for fighting fiercely for your rights. For relentless representation that you can trust, call Keith Short and Associates at 618-254-0055 today for a free consultation.
You're listening to Our Daily Show with CJ Nasello on RiverBender.com.
Hey, me, what you wanna do? I think I could stay with you for a while, maybe longer if I do. Don't you think the time is right for us to...
Welcome back, Daily Show on a Monday. 9:36 is the time. Back in with Gene. And, Gene, as we're talking about the book now and going right into it, what led up to the book? It was a money thing, correct? Or was it, or no, you getting a job at the Telegraph and coming back home was because it was getting expensive to live in Chicago.
Yeah.
And then what leads to the book?
Well, actually, the book leads back to Chicago.
Really?
And I wouldn't have known that because I never intended to write any book.
Really?
But in Chicago, I had some experiences that I wouldn't have had here, especially in theater with black actors, for instance.
Uh-huh.
I befriended for a while August Wilson, the great Pulitzer Prize-winning playwright. He would come; his plays would be done at the Goodman Theater, and when he was there, I would be invited to have lunch with him.
That's awesome.
So we would sit and talk, and that started me thinking about things because I was used to a white world.
Right.
I lived in a white vacuum, and then the government got a contest for a play about the Underground Railroad in Illinois specifically.
Wow. Okay.
I knew nothing about the Underground Railroad in Illinois. However, I won the contest.
Oh, wow.
So my third play becomes this journey where I am down in Kentucky, Illinois, and walking actual escape routes with archaeologists and historians, getting me ready to write this play. And so Water Brought Us and Water is going to Take Us Away, opened in 2 years from there, after I had been journeying through different Underground Railroad routes. One of them was, strangely, Alton, Illinois.
Wow.
Which I did not know until that time.
Right.
And then I got all the way up through to Chicago, around in Michigan up to Canada. And now I know that in Michigan, and I didn't know it then, a man who worked on the Underground Railroad in Cass County, Michigan, William Holman Jones, is my great-great-grandfather.
Wow.
I found this out with the Hainer Library.
It's incredible.
Genealogy Center.
That's incredible.
I've been to his farm now. He moved on to Bleeding, Kansas. And in Kansas, he befriended John Brown. Wow. So he's in the history books for that.
That's incredible.
And all of that is like percolating in me. Mm-hmm. So the play is based on the work of Glenn Tilly Turner, who's a historian, her book, The Underground Railroad in Illinois. I had written to her and asked for permission to use stuff. Mm-hmm. She's speaking at Martin Luther King Day, and she invites me to come. And in Lake Forest, Illinois, we go and have lunch in a mansion across the street, which has been donated. And she stops everybody from eating and says, "Gene, do you like the chair you're sitting in?" "Yes, Gwen." "Do you like the silverware? Do you like the plate?" "Yes. Martin Luther King sat in that chair.
Oh,
you
wow.
were eating off of his. This says us to honor you." And I'm like, oh my God.
Wow.
And once again, I bawled like a baby, and Gwen and I became good friends.
That's incredible.
So that happened. And something else that I don't think, something that I did illegally to help a black person. Let's just put it that way. That's chapter 1, but I don't know if I should talk about that.
Okay.
But all of that, now I come to Alton, Illinois. I meet Jo because I'm assigned to write about her.
Right.
She dies. The paper covers her death. That's the whole front page. I wrote it, the thing for the paper. So I'm at her funeral, and Dwayne Bailey, retired judge, walks up to me and says, I know who you are, and I'm here to tell you why you're here in Alton, Illinois. And I said, I'm here because I'm broke. And he said, no, you're here to write the civil rights struggles of Alton.
Wow.
And I'm, what? Like that. But behind him was Charlotte Johnson, who's quite a renowned historian. If you haven't met her, you should have her on your show. And Charlotte is sitting on a stairway and people watching, and she's laughing because she knows that I'm upset. And I said, did you know that Dwayne was going to ask me to write this thing? And she said, yeah, come to my house tomorrow and I'll give you all the ammunition you need.
Wow.
She has piles and piles of research all over her basement, which she handed me by the pound.
Oh, man.
That's how it starts.
That's incredible.
And then everything that I do from that moment, I'm learning about. I did not know.
Well, and now let's go back real quick before we go forward. You know, let's go back to the play. You're going through all these spots.
Yeah.
You know, and to me, and this is just my I think takeaway would be, is it's a different feeling whenever you're going through spots on the Underground Railroad. It's not, you know, I don't want to say this and sound, you know, any way of opinionated, but it's not the American pride you're feeling when you're walking in these spots. You know, I could only imagine. It could be in a way that we honor and we remember those stories, and it's prideful that way, and prideful that someone made this tough journey and they fought through all this adversity. But on the other side of things, it's very harrowing, I'm sure, and a very somber experience. Take me through, you know, what you felt in those spots, and then some of the stories you heard along the way.
What I remember most about that preparing for that play was they took me to a place, a knob, which is the highest point in the Shawnee National Forest.
Okay.
And from that knob, you could see our Kentucky slaves escaping.
Wow.
Could see that. So fires were lit there. So that people would know. And the Underground Railroad is essentially in increments of 10 miles.
Okay.
So, but that first journey would be to that knob.
Wow.
And that knob had an insulting name in the 1800s, the N-word knob.
Oh.
And now it's been changed to something else.
Rightfully so.
So, and then they had uncovered a village of free black people living there, and never harassed. Nothing happened to them, even though they were so close to the Kentucky border.
Wow.
Yeah. And so that happened, and all the way up through Elijah Lovejoy's brother, Owen, who lived in northern Illinois and was part of the Underground Railroad. And that's where I learned that Owen relied on local farmers to bring escaped slaves to him. And one of them was Duckbill Hickok, who was, as a kid, had a hair lip and that's why it was called Duckbill.
Wow.
As an adult, he grew an enormous mustache and became Wild Bill Hickok.
Oh, wow.
Yes. And he and other boys would run wagons, false bottom wagons, to take escaped slaves to Owen Lovejoy.
It's incredible.
Yeah, and there's 1,000 stories like that.
And see, that's where I feel like the difficulty would come in, because I'm sure every story deserves the same bit of time and attention, you know, when writing a play and also when showcasing that to a mass audience. And it's probably difficult to select those moments in time that you want to snapshot.
It is, and so my book is it's not a history. It's got history in it, but I'm a storyteller.
Yeah.
So it's a story, and I decided it's my journey to go through all this stuff. But the emphasis is on the people I met, and Joe Beckwith certainly is one of those major figures that I will never ever forget. And And then also, I was I worked on the National Tuskegee Airmen Oral History Project in Chicago because I was a writer. So they were looking for somebody to interview 100 or so survivors in the Chicago area. And I was immersed in that for 2 or 3 years as I met these gentlemen, including Truman Gibson, who, if you don't know who Truman Gibson is, look at the picture of President Harry Truman signing the desegregation order of the armed forces, and Truman is standing at his left shoulder, and I became friends with him.
Oh, wow.
And it was like that. It was just, everything was mind-boggling, everything that happened.
Well, and now take me through, writing the book now, and what the folks and the members of the public all, can get is, what's the best way to kind of to summarize this, or how can we get them to go, you know what, I'm going to get this today, I want to call Gene or find a way to get a copy of this?
That's a good question. About a third of the book, the last third, is devoted to that story of the civil rights struggles here. Before that, we look at certain individuals that, especially the history of Alton, going back to the 1900s. In the early 1900, Alton, Illinois, is the victim of Chicago reversing its sewage, and they reverse the Chicago River. Yeah, it comes into Alton. Yeah, that sewage. And plus, all those factories, people are really sick, and the atmosphere is awful. But it's worse for black people because they're in little Bell Street was a place where there were lots and lots of black people, virtually prisoners there. Plus 2 films which opened here in Alton in the early 1900s, The Birth of the Nation, and another one that has a name I cannot say on the air, and these were horrible things that committees of black women would beg Alton mayors to please do something about this before violence occurs, and nothing was ever done.
Well, and see, this is where I find it so fascinating too. Is it's a look into our own backyard in a way, because a lot of times, in those history books, and we talked about this the other day, is you get a lot of the national stories, and a lot of the ways that maybe folks look at news now, where it's like, well, it's not here, it's here, it's out there, but it's not in my backyard, it's not affecting me in my grocery aisle yet. And I think that when you take a look at these local stories or local figures, I think maybe it's a great opportunity for younger students and teachers to showcase our area's history through the civil rights movement, and not just the national stories, but also tie both of those national, the regional, and the local impact stories in as well.
There's a great story connecting us with Thurgood Marshall. Before he was famous as a Supreme Court, he ran the NAACP in New York. And he was getting ready to file Brown versus the Board of Education. He sent out accolades to go to different small towns over the South. He thought Alton was the South, and in some ways Alton is the South. And they would train local black families in those places on how to protest peacefully.
Wow.
Jill gave me an example. She and black women would go to the movie theater, and they would hold their children so nobody would hurt them and sit in the aisles of the movie theater.
Wow. Now,
they were trained by a woman who came on behalf of Thurgood and did this in secret. Her name is June Shagaloff, and she was very connected. She was at the famous Robert F. Kennedy meeting where they were trying to talk Kennedy into walking with Ruby Bridges into her school, and he refused to do it. And some really famous actors and so on, but June sat in that too. Yeah, and she was here. No one knew it.
It's incredible.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just incredible. And that's where, I would love, especially as we get, throughout the year, to keep having you come back and maybe talking about parts of the book, or maybe we can pick out a chapter that it doesn't give too much away, because we still want everyone to get it, and keep these conversations going, Gene, because it's a great introspective look, I think, and one that really puts the microscope back here in focus, and not just a broad view of things. And I think it's really important.
It's really different. writing plays about your, like Eugene O'Neill, your play, your drunken uncle, so on and so on. It's quite another thing to write a nonfiction piece that is so, it's very serious, and there are moments that aren't so serious, but it's just completely changed my life.
I bet.
Yeah, and in the future, I don't know where I'm going to go from here, but the next project will definitely have that element in it. So.
Well, and absolutely, and like I said, I can't wait, Gene, to talk about this further. And then as you get to that next project, if when it comes out or when it comes to that point, to keep us filled in on the process, because it's really good that we're taking a deep dive into our area more and more, and hopefully, like I said earlier, we can educate more individuals and younger children and let them know more about our area's history too.
I don't know how much time I have left, but let me just say, for everyone listening, the irony of all this is there is no such thing as race. There is no such thing. We all come from the same place. We are different colors because we live in environments that don't require dark skin. In Finland and Scotland and wherever, Scotland. But there is no race. Science tells us there is no such thing. And yet, every day on the news, you probably used it in your news broadcast, race. There's no such thing. It infuriates certain people of the Pale tribe, my tribe, to hear that. They don't want that. We're different. We're something special. We're here in the United States because it's our destiny, manifest destiny.
Absolutely. Well, Gene, thank you, like I said, so much for stopping by, and I really appreciate your time, and I can't wait to have you back on and discuss this further.
You're welcome.
We'll take a quick break at 9:51. More Daily Show comes right around the corner. We'll wrap up the 9 and get ready for the 10 after this.